My name is Angelo Lopez. I'm a Filipino-American political cartoonist based in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I have the honor and pleasure today to speak to Tjeerd Royaards. Is that right? Did I
Yeah,
get
that's right.
it? Okay. Tjeerd is a Dutch political cartoonist who's been doing cartoons since 2005. Let me tell you a little bit about him before we start. Um, from the year 2018 to 2020. Tjeerd's worked for the Dutch newspaper NRC, and he currently works in the Dutch newspaper Trouw. Trouw?
Yeah, that's
And
also correct.
yeah, he's the editor-in-chief of the cartoon movement. He's a board member of the Cartoonist Rights Network International. He's a member of Cartooning for Peace, and he's done his work has appeared in the Washington Post, the New York Times, the BBC, CNN, the Guardian, Le Monde, the Courrier International, France 24, and many other newspapers and news sites. So thank you for taking the time to talk to somebody who's halfway around the world.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me start off immediately by asking, since you do work for you are the editor-in-chief for the cartoon movement, will you tell me a little bit about the cartoon movement and how was it founded?
Yeah, sure. Cartoon Movement was founded in 2010, but actually it started a little bit before. So it came out of another website which was called the Video Journalism Movement, and that was a platform that was originally for video journalists and was set up by a video journalist who had done some work in the Middle East as a correspondent for Dutch media. And he decided he wanted to create this worldwide community of video journalists. Which was great. I met him and I did some work on his website. And over lunch one day we got talking, and he said, "Well, this thing that I'm doing for video journalists, is there anything out there for cartoonists like that?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." And he said, "Would you like to build a community for cartoonists?" And I said, "Yes." And that
Oh,
basically got the ball rolling back in 2008. And basically, I just started to email some cartoonists, "Hey, we're doing this new website. Would you be interested in being part of a community of international political cartoonists? Would you be interested in uploading your work and sharing your work with the world?" And that turned out to be really successful. So successful that the video journalism movement in the end died because of lack of funding. But
oh,
we decided to build out a website specifically for cartoonists, which became the Cartoon Movement,
oh,
and which has been going ever since. So we've been around now. In December, we're around for 13 years, I guess.
oh, congratulations. So is it
Thanks.
representing cartoonist from every continent, I
Well,
guess?
yeah, definitely from every continent. My end goal would be to have like a cartoonist from every country, but I guess the countries like North Korea and Saudi Arabia are kind of difficult to get, political cartoonists in. But that would be the end goal. But no, definitely every continent. And I think we're now approaching the 700 cartoonist mark. So we have
Oh,
700
wow.
cartoonists in our database who, at one point or another, joined Cartoon Movement. And obviously, not every cartoonist is as active. So I think we got like a core group of a couple of hundred cartoonists that are really active.
Oh.
We've got like 700 official members, or I think 696 at the moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have to apologize. I was active when I first came in, but I stopped for a while. And now that my
Yeah,
newspaper,
you're back now, though.
yeah, now I'm back.
So
So
yeah,
thank
that
you for
happens with
welcoming me
cartoonists.
back.
No,
Oh,
and it's
okay.
fine, It's sometimes people will stop and they'll come back, and it's a bit of a community. So it's and it also has to be fun for cartoonists. So we try to make a little bit of money for them, but initially it's also about sharing your work and being part of the community.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that political cartooning is more popular than video journalism.
Well, it's more easy to make a funding model of. The problem that they had with the VJ movement was that it's really expensive to make video reports. So
Oh,
and cartoons are relatively cheap. So it was easier to get the ball rolling in terms of funding and trying to keep the website going with cartoons and actually being able to pay the cartoonists than it was to produce video journalism and pay the journalists a decent fee for their work. So basically that was the big problem.
oh, okay. I didn't know that and stuff. So, okay. Well, I'm curious. Who are your cartoonist heroes and heroines, and how have they influenced your work?
Yeah, I have many. I still to this day I get I have this professional envy when I see like a really good cartoon. I'm like, oh, I wish I'd thought of that.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but I
do
guess
that too.
yeah, I think every cartoonist has that. There's like two commonalities between cartoonists I found. One is the professional envy, and the second one is that you, no matter how long you've been a cartoonist, you still remain insecure about your own work.
Yeah.
I'll still submit
You
something to the
peg me to a
newspaper.
T.
Yeah, and be like, oh, is that good enough? I don't know. But in terms of my heroes, I think the first one that comes to mind is Kevin Gallagher, Cal from The Economist,
Yeah,
because I saw his work, I think, back in the 90s, and I think he was the first one that I saw work of where I was like, this is so cool, and I want to become a political cartoonist too. So that's probably the one who's inspired me to get into the profession. And although my style is like vastly different from his, I
yeah. I was gonna
still
say.
love it. Yeah, yeah, weird, right? So yeah. I think it has to do with the fact that I couldn't ever become as good as Cal in the style that he does. So I just decided to go like a radically different course. So it's not comparable, and I don't have to compare my work to Cal's work because it's so different. So
Um,
that's one, and maybe yeah. I think if I look at the cartoonists I really like, I like a couple from the UK, like Morton Morland and Ben Jennings. I love their work. Both their works are really awesome, and they're so well drawn. I think maybe that's like the commonality in the cartoonist I admire is the what's the English word? The craft of it, like
oh,
really
okay.
being able to draw really well, and that's something. I don't consider myself to be like the best drawer, so maybe that's something I really look up to these people who making a really beautiful cartoon, and they also make it look effortless.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like your work though. Your work is good.
Oh, thanks. That's
I don't know
I've
these.
been getting better over the last 10 years, so I'm in a place where I'm reasonably happy with what I do and the style that I have.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. Was there any influence on your style, or did you just create it on your own and
I
stuff?
think I created mostly on my own. Obviously, I think the most major influence I had on both the content of my work and the style of my work has been doing cartoon movement, because I see like hundreds of international cartoons every day. So in terms of content and style, I think it really influenced me towards doing textless cartoons. So developing like this completely visual style. I think that's heavily influenced by the work I do for cartoon movement and the fact that I do like see so many international cartoons that also work more through the power of visuals than they do through the power of lettering or using text or speech bubbles or stuff like that.
Uh,
So I think that's like a major influence on my own cartoons.
is that helpful? Because in an international venue, you don't have to translate. The visual
Yeah,
works on its own.
exactly. Yeah. And so when I started out doing political cartoons, I studied political science, and after that, I decided I wanted to pursue like a career in editorial cartooning.
Mhm.
I really quickly found out that Dutch cartoonists that were already working were really good. And the numbers of spots at newspapers were really limited. So basically,
Okay.
I didn't have a chance as a 25-year-old aspiring cartoonist. So I decided, well, what am I going to do if I can't get any job or any publication in the Netherlands? I'll have to uh, go look internationally for it. So that's also why I started. Yeah, maybe that also influenced my decision to go more textless. That for the first 10-15 years of my career, I think 90% of what I published was in international newspapers and magazines, and not very much in the Netherlands at all.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
So
I
yeah.
struggle with labels and stuff. I still put a lot of labels and stuff, and I always wonder in an international market, will they understand the labels and stuff? So that's cool that you have the that kind of sort of a visual language in your cartoons, Pat, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Although I struggle with the same thing in the sense that you always struggle with the fact what will people understand and what won't they. So where do I need to be more clear by maybe putting a label on it, and where don't I, where can I get away with not using any text? So it's always this fine balance, because I'll do cartoons where I don't use any text at all, and then I'll get like feedback. Oh, we don't understand it. What do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? So it's
Yeah, I have that issue as an American doing issues on the Philippines. That's a similar issue with me that
yeah,
I'm
I can
still trying
imagine.
to learn. Yeah, so yeah, I ask this question of all cartoonists just because I'm very nosy at stuff. How do you do your cartoons? Do you do still do pen and ink on paper? Do you do computer? And what's your schedule when you do your cartoons?
So yeah, first of all, I started out doing cartoons completely on paper. Actually, my very early work is also in black and white. Then in I think 2008, I started using Photoshop. I did the cartoons on paper with fine liners, and then I scanned them, and then I did like the coloring digitally, and I did that for about 6 years. And then in 2014, I got my first digital tablet, a Wacom
Oh,
Cintiq, small one. Which I actually bought with some prize money I got from a cartoon award, so it was kind of an investment. Um, and I thought, well, I'm gonna buy this. I'm gonna try it out. I'll probably still work on paper, and then gradually switch over. And I did my first cartoon in it, and I never worked on paper again, ever. I
is it
love it.
is it
It's
faster?
yeah, for me it is, and I love the intuitiveness of it. So I'll have everything from my very rough draft until my finished artwork will be in the same file, just layered. So just from the first
Oh,
to the last layer, it's all one file, and it really works very intuitively and very fast for me.
okay.
Uh, and I like it. I just like it a lot, and it also really fits my style. So that also definitely helps. So yeah, for me, it's like a no brainer. I love it.
No, okay.
Yeah. So and as for my schedule, so I have two fixed cartoons I need to do a week. I have the Monday and the Friday in my newspaper. And then I have deadlines at 4 o'clock. But usually I try to do my cartoons in the morning. And I'll try to to get early into my studio and just do something between 9 and 12, and then be done before the lunch, and do other stuff after lunch. And actually, I try to do like 4 or 5 cartoons a week, and the other ones that I don't get to publish in my regular newspaper, I'll use for the international media that I still work for.
Mhm.
And then the schedule is actually the same. I live about 3 miles from my studio, so and it's a nice walking route there. So I'll take an
Oh,
hour each morning to walk to work, and then I'll come up with like, what do I want to draw about? What am I going to draw? And then I'll get into my studio, make coffee, get to work, and usually, especially for me, it really works drawing every day. So if I have this schedule where I do a cartoon each day, I usually don't have any creative block or anything. So I'll come into work, I'll have an idea of what I want to do, I'll do that. And usually I'll hammer out a cartoon in 2.5, 3 hours, and then it's lunchtime. And then after lunch, I'll do like stuff for Cartoon Movement.
oh, okay. I'm curious. For me, I don't think of good ideas unless I'm really passionate about an issue and stuff, right? And
Yeah,
as an American doing cartoons on the Philippines, I have to do a lot of research and stuff. And so
yeah.
I have to, do you do a lot of research and reading and stuff or?
I do, but I think it kind of falls into the general news consumption, which I don't think if I would describe myself as like a news junkie, but I do read like a lot of newspapers, and I'll read a lot online. So um, um, sometimes when I have like an idea where I want to do a cartoon about it, and I'm not really sure of my facts, I'll do like an hour of research, and I'll scan the data, and I'll see if my facts are in order, because I do want all my cartoons to, that they're cartoons, so they can exaggerate reality, but they have to be grounded in facts.
Yeah.
I feel. And that's so yeah, definitely I'll do some research, but usually I'll be well versed enough in the subject, especially since I do either Dutch politics, which I kind of know a lot about through regular news consumption, or I'll do like the big international issues, which are like migration or now Gaza or stuff like that, which and the basic tenets of that. I'll also know, and it's also, I think it also has to do with the fact that I do like these visual cartoons, so they're pretty general in the point that they're making. So
Yeah.
I usually don't get into like the nitty gritty of needing to fact check the figures I'm using in cartoons, because I usually don't do that. So I think that helps. And as to the other point, when I do like cartooning workshops, it's one of the first things I tell like students or people that are going to draw a cartoon themselves is, think of a subject you're passionate about. Think of something that makes you angry, because that will make the best cartoon. And for me, it works the same way. It's if it's really something I feel strongly about, it'll be something I enjoy working on, and it'll be a stronger cartoon in most of the times.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Everything you said, it kind of resonates with me. So cool.
Cool.
So, yeah. Well, as a Dutch cartoonist, as an American, I don't know what's going on in the Netherlands these past 2 years.
Yeah, so we're gonna have elections in about 3 weeks, which is
Okay.
interesting. So we had like a prime minister for the last 15 years. He's been the longest prime minister we've ever had. And we had quite a right-wing government. And we're gonna have new elections now, and it's actually going to be pretty exciting, because we have a lot of right-wing parties, but we also have like two major left-wing parties, the biggest ones, and they decided to merge. So they've
Oh, cool.
become like one very big left-wing party, in the hope that, like, as a merged party, they will appeal to even more voters, and maybe they'll even be the biggest party and get to form a new coalition. So that's something that I, as a progressive cartoonist, I'm really hoping about, because we had like 15 years of right-wing rule in the Netherlands. So it would be nice to get some left-wing progressive policy for a change. But the jury's still out, because the ruling party that has been in power for so long, they're actually doing very well in the polls as well, and they're actually polling still as the biggest right now. So it's going to be an exciting election, and like migration is a big issue, because people feel we have too much migration. So that's a thing. Climate obviously is like a big issue in politics. Should we take action? How much action should we take? How much money should we spend on it? So those are some of like the big issues. And there's also a major housing crisis, that it's really difficult in the Netherlands for young people to find adequate housing and to be able to afford their own home. So that's something that's like a big thing. So with some really big themes that will dominate the election. And it's actually anyone's guess. The skeptic in me is thinking that it will probably be another right-wing coalition that's gonna win and gonna rule the country, but I sincerely hope not.
Is it similar to what's been going on in Italy and
A little
France?
bit, although I think we do have the luck that it's a little bit less extreme right. So Meloni is like a really fascist extreme right. If
Okay.
you look at her policy and what she's doing, like curbing women to have same-sex parents on the birth certificate,
Uh,
that's something she's banned. She's actually banning research that's being done on creating meat in laboratories, because she feels that's going towards against the traditionalist values. So she's doing some really weird, pretty right-wing stuff. And I would say in the Netherlands, if we're going to have a right-wing government, it's not going to be a government I agree with, but it's definitely going to be less extreme than what's happening in Italy, or even what's I think Sweden also has
yeah. Oh,
extreme right
Sweden's
really
going through
big
stuff too.
right now. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
I
it's luckily it's a little bit more moderate than that.
okay. So it's I didn't realize artificial meat was an issue.
I know it's part. I actually saw a lecture by a professor last week, which was really interesting, and it's about how populism is using food as a way to strengthen national identity. And if you think
Oh,
about it, it's
I guess it kind of makes sense.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I never thought about it, but it actually really makes sense. So you see a lot of these right-wing governments or political parties are also protesting against eating insects, because insects are a really good source of protein, and the European Union is kind of saying, oh, we should maybe consider eating insects as part of our diet instead of eating so much meat, because it's way more sustainable. It's a very
Okay.
good source of protein, and all the parties on the right side are saying, oh my God, that's the worst, and Europe is going to force our kids to eat worms and eat bugs, and like, so it's this yeah.
Yeah, this is why
So
I like talking to people from different countries. That's an issue that never would have occurred to me.
no, yeah, no, and once you notice it, it's really everywhere. So, as I said, it wasn't really on my radar either until this professor who's been doing research into it actually showed me some headlines of newspapers for the last few years, and it was like, oh my God, it's an issue.
Okay. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but I mean,
Yeah, I know it is ridiculous when you think of it, but yeah, within the same vein, Maloney banned research into artificial meat. It's like the same thing.
okay.
It's scary. It contradicts her national narrative of what Italy is and what Italy should be. And I think especially in the Netherlands, but probably also in Italy and other countries, the farmers are actually like a big supporter of these populist parties. So like it's a big voting bloc that they need to support off. So in that sense, it also makes sense.
Okay, okay. Well, this kind of leads to my next question, actually, is that, around the world, there has been a rise in authoritarianism and, right-wing nationalist
Yeah.
movements. And so you mentioned Meloni in Italy, Viktor Orban's in Hungary. I think Marine Le Pen's in France,
Yeah.
Erdogan's in Turkey. You got Putin in Russia. Now, for me personally, you know, my cartoons have focused on the authoritarian tendencies of Rodrigo Duterte
Yeah.
and Bongbong Marcos in the Philippines and Asia and stuff. So, I mean, since you're European, how have Europeans faced this authoritarianism?
Yeah, I think it's a real concern for Europe in general. I think the European Union is really struggling with it, in the sense that the European Union values are very much towards the rule of law and human rights, and
Yeah.
obviously people like Maloney, people like Orban, people like Fico now, who was just elected in Slovakia. They kind of go right against that. They say we don't want rule of law, or we will buy up the media to win elections. We'll put journalists in jail. So it's really, really scary. But as for the people, I think we live in a very uncertain time, and in uncertain times, people tend to seek hope or seek something in like a strong leader. And I think we're really seeing that the need in Europe, at least, but also in other countries around the world, for like strong leadership, and the fact that leadership is will trample the constitution and will not be very nice to minorities, will not be very nice to freedom of speech or free media in general. It's something they don't really care about, because they're scared of what the next decades will look like.
Yeah. How have European cartoonists been dealing with that?
Yeah,
Has there been
yeah,
like in Hungary?
yeah.
Is there censorship?
So it's in Hungary. I was in Budapest last year. I think it's almost exactly a year ago, and I talked to a lot of cartoonists there, and yeah, it's really scary. So for instance, the Hungary situation is basically that there is one cartoonist left in the country who works at an independent newspaper, and there are other cartoonists, of course, but they don't get paid because they've all been fired from the newspapers. So all the other newspapers are owned by friends of Orban, and the first thing those newspaper owners did was get rid of like dissident voices within the newspaper,
Yeah.
which were cartoonists. So you have it's a really sad story. You have some really great cartoonists there, but they're not getting paid for their work anymore, because they cannot publish it anywhere. because basically there's no media left to publish it in, and there's one independent newspaper where this one great cartoonist still works for, and they're tied up in like I think 4 lawsuits that have been organized against them by Orban, who's trying to shut them down, trying to quell them the way they publish and what they publish. So it's a scary story, and this one I know quite well because I was there and I was talking to the cartoons. But I would say it's basically the same in other countries. So Slovakia, I don't know, but I would imagine same story. Poland, same story, especially at least for journalists. And I know a couple of journalists there, and they've been telling me basically the same thing. And I would say it's the same for cartoonists there as well. As for the rest of Europe, I think that's the thing that always surprises me about the US is that you have so many conservative, like right-wing cartoonists there, because we don't have a lot in Europe. We're mostly like progressive, left-wing liberal people. So you can kind of imagine how like the majority of cartoonists have responded to the rise in authoritarian regimes here. It's basically been like a massive protest in cartoons against people like Orban, people like Erdogan, people like Le Pen.
Yeah, I'm curious though. In the United States, there are conservative cartoonists, but I'm not sure how many, but quite a few of the conservative or anti-Trump conservative cartoonists. So even though they're conservative, they're still very critical of Trump and stuff. In Europe, are the conservative European cartoonists anti-Erdogan? Are they mostly supporting the authoritarianism, or are there a few conservative cartoonists who?
The weird thing is, I cannot think of any conservative cartoonists in Europe.
Oh,
it's and I know quite a few. So no, I don't know any cartoonist who does like pro Erdogan cartoons or pro Orban cartoons, and I also don't know any conservative cartoonist. Period. It's like
I think it's a weird quirk of America.
Yeah, well, I think it's actually a good thing to have like because in Europe, political satire often gets like treated by right-wing voters and right-wing people like, oh, there are those liberal cartoonists again. So it's probably good to have like cartoonists on all points of the spectrum, and it's actually worth some research as to why this developed in America and not in Europe.
Yeah. I'm curious. Well, I mean, in America, there's many different types of conservatives and stuff. There's religious conservatives, there's fiscal conservatives. I used to have a lot of conservative friends or close conservative friends. I still have a few, but most of the conservative friends I have left are either anti-Trump conservatives or our friendship is on edge. We're like, we're still friends and stuff, but it's there's a painful silence and stuff. On certain issues and stuff. So I've been a sigh. But okay. Well, okay. Right now the big news is the conflict between Hamas and Israel. How has it been for the Israeli, Palestinian, Middle East cartoonists that you know? Has it been very traumatic right now for them, or?
I think so. I must admit, I haven't talked yet to many Israeli cartoonists. I was planning to do so, but I haven't yet. What you see, like very much or a lot of polarization, especially on Cartoon Movement. You see this between like Middle Eastern cartoonists and a couple of Israeli cartoonists we have. But also in the comments, like a lot of users that are either on one side or the other. It's such a polarizing issue, and I think that translates through in the cartoons. So you have like the Middle Eastern cartoonist, and they'll do cartoons that are clearly on the side of the Palestinians and very much against Israel. And then you have the Israeli cartoonists, and they'll do cartoons that really condemn Hamas. And go from the other side, and then you have like the other cartoonists from other parts of the world that are kind of stuck in the middle, that are kind of like, we don't want to pick a side because like we think Hamas are terrorists, and we do think the 7th October was horrendous, but we also think the way Netanyahu is responding to it is also horrendous. So what kind of so how
That's
do you
my position?
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people from the outside who don't have like a vested interest in the conflict are like really trying to figure out how can I visualize my stance, and it's difficult because cartoons are not very good at nuance. So
Yeah.
so it's always easier to pick like one side. And I was talking to for a radio interview I gave about this. I was comparing it to like Ukraine, where Ukraine is like this very clear narrative where you just pick
Yeah.
one side and you can Putin is the bad guy, and it's clear, and you know what you want to tell, you know what the public opinion agrees with. And here it's like the opposite. It's like you have to think, okay, what do I want to tell? How do I want to bring nuance into it? How do I want to shed light on both sides, or at least say, oh, I hate what Netanyahu is doing, but I'm not condoning what Hamas has done.
Yeah, yeah. I always think that that was that's always been one of my struggles, because I know in the Philippines, a lot of issues are more nuanced and, a lot more complex. And I have a theory that multi-panel cartoons tend to be better at nuance than single panel. And since I mostly do single panel, I struggle. I've tried to do a few multi-panel cartoons, but I'm terrible with dialogue and stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, me too.
yeah, but I'm always wondering, do you still have the comics journalism? Would comics journalism be better for something that's as complex as Israel and Hamas, or Israel and Palestine?
Definitely. And yes, we definitely do. We still do projects mainly with universities. So London School of Economics. We just did one for the University of British Columbia.
Okay.
So yeah, mostly those, because those pay, and these are quite expensive productions. That's the big downside of doing comics journalism, that the funding
Uh,
needs to come from somewhere, because
is it similar to
you
video
put.
journalism? The
Sorry?
same weakness? Video journalism had the same
Yeah,
weakness
yeah,
as
pretty much. Yeah,
comics
yeah. It takes a
journalism?
long time, and it's just expensive because you're paying an artist to do like a lot of work, and the artist wants to be paid fairly for the time that he puts into it. It costs a lot more than cartoons, but it's definitely way better of bringing nuance and bringing context. But it's a different animal, I feel. I do agree with you that the multi-panel stuff is better at bringing those nuanced elements into it, and providing context. But you especially if you go beyond like the 3 or 4 panels, it's not satire anymore. It becomes like this comics journalism explanatory piece, which
Yeah.
is fine, but it's a different beast than satire. And maybe the current conflict in Gaza isn't that well suited for satire at the moment, because it's just too complex, and we cannot catch it in cartoons at the moment. So that might be it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think if cartoons are good at something, it is denouncing the horrors of war and showing how the absurdity of conflict and stuff like that. And I've seen like many good cartoons do that. So there's there's 2 sides to it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree and stuff, because I do like doing single panel, and I've seen some wonderful single panel. The problem I have is that because I'm focused so much in the Philippines, I haven't kept as much in touch with the Israel-Palestinian situation the past few years.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of playing catch up and
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and stuff. But yeah, and I've tried to think of a few ideas, but whenever I look at the cartoon, the cartoon movement, I keep, this is a lot better than anything I could think of right now.
Yeah. No, it's like the number one rule of cartooning is don't compare yourself with anyone else, because you'll get depressed. And
Yeah, so I'm kind of I'm a lot more confident about issues facing the Philippines right now.
yeah, I can totally imagine. That's your comfort zone.
Oh, okay. Did you have anything to add about, what's going on with the Israeli, Palestinian, or Middle East cartoonists?
No, I think I said most of what I wanted to say. It's just difficult. It's just very, very difficult. I feel for cartoonists. So
Yeah, yeah. I
um,
wish the best for all of them and stuff. So
yeah,
yeah, and
true.
it's a very difficult time. So okay, I have a question that as the times have gotten more polarized, uh, a few cartoonists have told me that they worry that their cartoons are just preaching to the choir. When I mentioned this to a poet, the poet said that sometimes the choir needs to be preached. right? In this more polarized time, what effect do you think your cartoons have?
Oh, it's actually a good question. I think I think that cartooning for most of the existence of political cartoons has been preaching to the choir. So I feel it might be more so now, but it's always been the case when you were working for a publication of a certain political affiliation, or at least a political tendency, left or right. So you tend to get the majority of the people who see your cartoons will agree with it.
Yeah,
And I think for my work at least, if I get like just one person with each cartoon I do who'll kind of reconsider their viewpoint or at least think about it, then that'll be profit for me. And I know that the other hundreds of people that see it, or thousands of people that see it, will be I agree with that.
yeah,
Which I think is fine. I think as a cartoonist, one of your jobs is to reflect like public opinion, to kind of summarize and to condense it down. So I'm actually fine with that. I think actually here social media kind of helps in the sense that before social media it was preaching to the choir to the max, because your cartoon would be in a publication and it wouldn't get out. And now at least when you put it like on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram, it has the potential to reach like a lot of people, and also a lot of people who might not necessarily agree with you. So I think that the potential to reach other people outside of your choir, so to speak, is actually far greater than it was like 20 years ago. If it'll also convince them, I don't know, because these are times where people are kind of really attached to their own opinion, and kind of think it becomes, the more stronger you're convinced about something, the more difficult it is to change or to be open to consider other points of view. So I do see that problem, but
yeah.
yeah, so those are my feelings about it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I was kind of naive. I used to hope that my cartoons would persuade some people and stuff. But then when I heard when people began mentioning that they were worried that their cartoons were preaching to the choir, and I got me worried too. But when
Yeah,
I talked to the poet, and she said that sometimes the choir needs to be preached, I began thinking about what's happening in the Philippines and stuff. Duterte, he's had extrajudicial killings. He's attacked the press. He's attacked human rights activists and priests and all of this stuff. And yet his popularity is around 70-80% stuff.
yeah, yeah,
And I don't know what his popularity is among Filipino Americans, but I worry that it's similar stuff.
yeah,
It
probably.
may not be and stuff, but but I was thinking about it and stuff. Maybe my cartoons are not for the 80% of the people who like Duterte, because they won't they won't be persuaded, but maybe
Yeah,
it's for the 20% to let them know they're not alone and stuff.
exactly. Yeah,
You know,
which is
it's
equally important, I would say, to keep things for that group on the radar, and to say to them, hey, look here, there are people agreeing with you, and there are these are
yeah,
issues that we need to continue to put on the agenda, and we need to continue to fight for them because they are important.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I think it's much that as it is, getting other people to think and to consider your point of view.
Yeah, because I was one, until I talked to the poet, I was kind of worried. But after the poet told me that, I said, "Oh, that's pretty wise." And so
Yeah.
now my cartoons, I still attack and stuff, but now my cartoons, okay, I want to make sure you guys know that it's okay to dissent.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is such an important message.
Yeah, yeah. So, uh, do you get down about that though? I mean, when you, I mean, I get kind of,
No, I did, because I think the point that you made and the insight that you had, because the poet, I think I decided that for myself like 5 or 6 years ago
oh,
already, that
okay,
my role as a cartoonist is also to reflect what other people are thinking already. So and that the far majority of people who see my work will agree with me is fine. And when I do get like a cartoon that does really well on social media, I'll get like lots of people who don't agree with me, and then I'll get lots of hate and you suck, you left wing liberal, blah blah blah, which is fine as well. It's so yeah, it's something I think I've learned to accept. because I think it's part of what being a political cartoonist is about. It's about, you know, showing people that there are people that share their values, that there are things that people think are important to keep on the agenda, and you're kind of, you know, summarizing that and telling to them, especially if you have like a platform like a newspaper or something, come on guys, these issues are important, and we need to keep talking about them, and we need to keep showing them, and we need to keep reminding people that they are important.
Yeah, yeah. I guess for me, I only got this insight, I think a year ago. So for you, it's old news, but for me, it's like, wow, this is a great idea. Wow. To me, it still seems like a brilliant idea, but I guess it's been around for a while.
Yeah, no. Is this like something you talk to other cartoonists? Well, it's not something I regularly talk about to other cartoonists. So I'm not sure if other. Do you know how other cartoonists feel about it? If a lot of them have struggled
Actually,
with this kind of-
ever since I had that talk with the poet, I mentioned it to a few other cartoonists, and they, oh yeah, that's true and stuff. So now, if you, I didn't actually talk about it with the car. There was Eric Garcia was the one who told me about that he worries that his cartoons
Yeah,
preach to the choir. I haven't talked to him since, so I'm going to have to tell him about this brilliant insight. That's really not
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
That's really not that new. So, okay. Yeah. So, oh, okay. Okay. You're a board member of the Cartoonist Rights Network International, right?
Yeah,
It's a group that's dedicated to helping political cartoonists who are in danger around the world. Is that
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. I have a two-part question. I think the first part is, what has the situation been for political cartoonists around the world the past few years? And the second part, I think you might have touched upon it, but I'll ask it again. You're a European cartoonist. It's been 7 years since Charlie Hebdo. Are European cartoonists safer now? And I know you mentioned that in Hungary they're not and stuff,
Yeah.
right? And stuff. But so I guess you partially answered that second part. But I guess the first, what is the situation like?
Yeah, I can really be. I'll do like a more elaborate answer after, but I can be really short on the two parts of the question. First, it's gotten a lot worse in the last 20 years, and the second is no, it's definitely not safer for cartoonists. So to touch upon the first question, the first part of the question, if you look at the Press Freedom Index and how that's developed over the last 20 years, it's a pessimistic story, and you also, you know, your other questions refer to the rise of all these right-wing populist regimes. Well, these regimes don't like press freedom, and the sad and unfortunate fact is that the moment press freedom is in danger, cartoonists are usually the first ones to suffer, because they are like a really visible proponent of freedom of expression, of holding power accountable. So they're the first ones that get in trouble. And it's just a sad story. I think that we've, especially over the last 5 years, we've just seen a rise in the number of cases of cartoonists who got in trouble. We've seen a lot of more cases where cartoonists actually had to flee the country and to go live in exile. So to give you an example, last year I got contacted by a couple of Cuban cartoonists because we were doing a project in Cuba. And for a bunch of years, it was actually looking like it started to get better in Cuba in terms of censorship and media freedom. So you had like this young generation of cartoonists there that kind of got used to having a little bit of freedom to not only do cartoons about international issues, but actually do cartoons about domestic issues as well. But then they suffered an economic downturn, and there were a lot of protests in the street, and the government decided that they should up the repressiveness a little bit. And that meant, you know, being more oppressive towards media as well. So these cartoonists basically all got a visit from the state saying, "Hey, you either need to shut up or go to prison or leave the country, and we prefer you leave the country."
Wow.
So now 3 of them are in France, one of them is in Spain. And this is like not an incident. It's in most either you have new countries where they weren't on the radar before, where cartoonists are now like getting in trouble, like Hungary, like Poland, like stuff like
Yeah.
that, or you have countries that have a long history of not so much media freedom that have actually gotten worse over the last 5 years. So it's pretty sad. And then the second part, has it become safer for cartoonists in Charlie Hebdo? I would say no. I think cartoonists have gotten even more wary about drawing things like things about well, things about Islam, basically. I guess I think no one in their right mind will easily draw the Prophet Muhammad in Europe still. And it's
Yeah.
what's it been? It's been a number of years. So that's the same taboo as it always been. I think Charlie Hebdo, they did like a number where an issue where they published loads of cartoons about Khamenei in Iran, the Iranian Revolution or the Iranian protests last year. And I know a number of cartoonists who participated in that issue, and they got like police at their home and death threats and stuff like that because of their participation in that. So I think the situation is as concerning as it was in 2015.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry to hear that and stuff.
Yeah, no, me too. Yeah, I wish you could tell like a more positive story, but
Yeah, yeah. No, but it's important to say, and the fact that they're in danger signifies how important they are.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's also, it's like it's what I always, when I talk about cartoons, the first thing I say, if cartoons weren't that important, all these dictators wouldn't be putting cartoonists in jail.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In America, the problem with us is not safety, it's economics.
Yeah,
Because American newspapers have been declining and stuff. It's a lot of cartoonists are losing their jobs. So
yeah,
it's a lot of it. I seem, at least to me, seems financial and stuff. But I just went last month. I went to the Association of American Editorial
uh-huh.
Cartoonist convention. It was, in on the one sense, it was wonderful. I had a wonderful time with people. Everybody was very nice and stuff. But on the other hand, there was this sense of foreboding. How many more conventions will we be going to?
Yeah,
How many cartoonists will be left and stuff?
yeah,
And we're trying to it is I'm curious. Most in America, most editorial cartoonists, if there's an editorial cartoonist under 40, we're amazed.
yeah.
In Europe, are most of the editorial or political cartoonists, are there a younger generation? And when I say younger generation, anything under 30 and stuff,
Yeah,
or is
yeah.
everybody older?
No, it's. I think it's difficult. I think it's comparable to the US, and also to touch upon like the previous question. It's not like I don't want to paint this picture where European cartoonists are like concerned for their safety on a daily basis, because they're not, especially in Western Europe, in like the Netherlands and in Belgium and in France and Germany. It's all fine. What I mean by that it's gotten not better since Charlie Hebdo is more that we have the same red lines that we had back then, where you were hoping that would, but there's like a ton of subjects where you can draw about, and we have press freedom, and I don't have to worry that the police knocks on my door. So I just want to make that clear. It's not like
Oh no, I don't know. I don't know. It's like
yeah.
me as an
No,
American, I
and
can do
the second part
cartoon.
is yeah, I think it's very comparable to the US. So to give you so I work in a newspaper with four other cartoonists. I'm 43. We have one that's 76, one that's 78, one that is 63, and so it's me and 43, and then Nana, that's the only girl, the woman who works there. I think she's 36 or something. So she's considered to
So
be
you're the
like
young
really
ones.
young. Yeah,
Yeah.
but like a young generation of cartoonists, no, I'm and it's just it's a problem with, it's also economics, in the sense that there's just no space, or publications won't make space for new cartoonists. So all the old ones stick around at the newspaper, and there's no vacancies opening up. It's not even that newspapers are actually cutting cartoonist positions as such, but it's just that all these people just continue on until they're 85 or 90. So there's just
Okay. Around the world, though, are there, younger political cartoons? Or I always wonder, do younger political cartoonists gravitate towards graphic novels?
they
And,
might,
and
but I would say, for instance, after the Arab Spring, there was like a generation of pretty young political cartoonists there. So in Cuba as well, those are all like from in the age range 25 to 35, and pretty
yeah,
talented. I think there is, and especially in countries where there's like a need for freedom, and you get like a space where they feel they can have a voice. You see like younger generations of political cartoonists standing up and claiming that space.
yeah.
The problem is that what we've seen over the last 5 years, once again, is that in most of these countries, there's been a turn towards oppressive regimes once again. So you'll see this younger generation just dying out as quickly as they came up.
Oh, okay. I've been lucky in the sense, even when I got, I happened to connect with a few Filipino cartoonists, and
Which are quite young, right?
yeah,
Like
they're actually kind of
Zach
young
or
and stuff, and they have ideas that I never, like they have a Facebook page, they do social media, they connected with a rapper, stuff that me as an older guy would never have occurred to me and stuff, and I wouldn't. That's because I'm in America, I would not have the connections to do
yeah.
that and stuff. But I'm sort of like, I'm glad I connected with them, but I don't know how they found me. I think it was luck and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's like with you. I don't know how I connected with you. I think it was just
No, I
luck
can't
or
remember.
something. But
Yeah, well, in the end, it's like a small group. Like it's like political cartoonists, even worldwide. It's not like it's a huge amount of people. It's still a pretty niche profession.
yeah, but I'm wondering, you're saying for political cartoonists for a younger generation in countries, I always wonder if they see political cartooning as activism and not as necessarily as much journalism and stuff.
I think it's more activist, definitely.
Yeah, because
If you look at
I
like
had
the Philippines and the cartoonists working there, and also the cartoonists I talked to, but also Cuba and also other countries. Yeah, I think it's really the desire to make a change and to have like this voice for change, which is
yeah,
completely different from how I got into like political cartooning. But it's context, you know. I came into political cartooning in a functioning democracy with rule of law and media freedom. So for me, it's more about reflection, about pointing out what's wrong in society, but doing it from a context where there is media freedom and there is freedom in general, and there is no
yeah,
censorship, and there's no human rights abuses.
yeah,
And they came into it, you know, having to fight for it and having the feeling that they still have like a ways to go before they have a free country.
yeah.
Which is totally understandable that you then become more activist and that your stance in political cartooning is more activism related.
Yeah, that's always been my wonder, because I notice American political cartoonists consider themselves journalists
Yeah,
and
and in
stuff,
Europe as
whereas
well. Yeah.
and I notice some of the more leftist cartoonists, or some of the more cartoonists in the Philippines. I'm not sure about all of them. I've never really asked, but from looking at their cartoons, it's influenced me. My cartoons, I really want to persuade people that Duterte is bad. I really
Yeah.
want to persuade people that Marcos is bad, that rewriting history to make the Marcos dictatorship seem like a golden age is not good and stuff. So
Yeah.
for me, I don't know if that's, there's a bit of, I think the activism in my cartoons is influenced by those cartoonists, and the fact that I'm really scared. I'm scared of
Sure.
the direction that the Philippines is turning
Yeah.
to and stuff. And I'm thinking like, gosh, why are we repeating history's mistakes
Mhm.
and stuff,
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
that'll give like some urgency to your work, and that urgency comes close to activism, I would say, because you really have a desire to change something and to but then once again, you know, in general, political cartoons are designed to make people think and to inspire change. So I think there's a certain amount of activism in all political satire in that sense, because you're kind of pointing out what's wrong and pointing people towards, you know, this we should address this problem basically.
yeah, okay. Yeah, since I'm in this Philippine group, I always want to, as much as I can, I give a plug to them. So, so
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, but we learn from, I think one of the things I've learned is that when I listen to you, when I listen to people from other countries who are facing similar issues of authoritarianism and stuff, I think we can learn from each other and
Yeah.
stuff, you know.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
like in the is this an issue? It just popped in my head, so this is not one of the questions I prepared. But one of the Philippine cartoonists told me that she had to censor her cartoons because of the threat of libel.
Oh
That
yeah.
Duterte would threaten her paper with libel, and then the editors would tell her to take it easy on him
Oh
because
wow.
they don't want to get sued for libel.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah. Yeah.
is that an issue in Europe or in some
No, I don't
countries?
think so. Yeah, so it is in Hungary. So that's what the lawsuits that the newspaper, that the last Hungarian cartoonist who works for this independent newspaper is facing. It's all about libel and blasphemy and insult, and so
Okay.
yeah. So it's like a proven tactic from regimes, if because they'll have money and they'll have lawyers, so they can like sue the hell out of your newspaper. But in the Netherlands, at least, and in other countries in Europe that I know of, it's not an issue, and it's also in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, we had like, I think we had like three cases in the last 100 years that involved cartoons. And all three were won by the cartoonists because the judge said, well, political satire trumps libel and trumps, so if you're in power, you can expect to be satirized. It's the job of political satire to attack those in power. So we have a lot of freedom that way.
Okay. Yeah, it's just something that never occurred to me until I heard her and stuff. And I asked a few cartoonists in America, in the convention, are there any are we threatened by, are the Republicans trying to change the libel law so that, they didn't
Yeah.
know and stuff. So I don't know if that's an issue in America, but if it's in the Philippines, I'm sure it's, you were saying in Hungary, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a general strategy. So, I wouldn't be really really surprised if at some point the Republican Party is going to try it, because it's like it's very easy. It's the two-tier system of fascism is, or at least the ones we're seeing now, the populist fascism is either buy like all the media, or make sure that your rich friends buy the media, that you own them, and
Oh,
once you can't own or that remain independent, you sue the hell out of them until they're out of business, or until
okay.
they fall in line with what your political message is.
Yeah, that what you mentioned is happening what's happening in the Philippines and stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah, okay.
yeah, it's happening. Yeah, it's like that's also it's the problem of the connected world, in that regimes kind of look at each other at what works, and they'll copy that. So if they see like a
Uh,
strategy that works in Hungary, they'll be, oh, that's good, we can
yeah.
do that.
I asked other cartoonists about this. I get kind of scared and stuff, but a lot of the cartoonists that I talk to, they're worried, but they're not scared. They're grimly determined to use the cartoons to fight against whatever the authoritarianism is. Are you grimly determined? Or are you
I'm
kind of
definitely grimly determined, but I'm also in a very lucky position in the sense that, again, in the Netherlands, I don't face a lot of the problems that I know international colleagues in other countries face.
okay?
It's incomparable in that sense. But yeah, I'm definitely grimly determined to
Oh,
use cartoons. And again, as long as cartoonists get locked up or harassed, it means that our work matters, and it means that people in power fear what we do. So as long as that's the case, I'll definitely continue doing cartoons.
yeah, yeah. I guess I'm scared. I'm kind of wimpy, but grimly determined in my wimpy way. So, so but I'm lucky like you and stuff. It's being in America, I'm not worried about getting killed and
Yeah,
stuff.
well, exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, okay. This is probably an unfair question, but I'll ask you anyways. Do you have any opinions on how the world can turn away from polarization or authoritarianism, or is it just you have any, or if you don't have any ideas and stuff, it's
Yeah, no, it's such an all-encompassing
or at least in Europe. I mean, do you have any
question.
ideas?
So my the political scientist in me is kind of analyzing that we're at the end of an era, or the end of like a paradigm. So we're kind of at the end of the Pax Americana, uh, but we don't know what the new system is going to be yet. So is it going to be like a multipolar system, or is China going to take over, or so? So and then added to this are all these very big problems like climate change, and which it's going to affect our life, but we don't know in what ways and to what extent yet. So we have like a bunch of things that really make it very uncertain what the coming 50 years, 100 years will look like and will be like for humanity. And until we reach this new balance, we're going to be in like a period of flux. And I think this flux is symptoms of this flux are the polarization, and are the wish for a lot of people to have like a strong leader who will take us into the future, and have strong ideas on what society should look like and what we should do, because nobody actually knows what we should do. And if they do know, we think, oh, that's a lot of work. Addressing climate change is like a huge amount of work that will affect our lifestyle and affect the way we live, and people don't want that. So it's kind of, we don't know how to move forward, but we kind of know that we cannot stay in the status quo. So I think it's that, but as how to solve that, I don't know. And as a cartoonist, I know even less, because it's really difficult to, be non-polarizing cartoonist. Like,
yeah. I think I had a talk with somebody talking about how we have to move away from polarization. I agree, but my doing political cartoons, I have to attack certain things that are like, like I have to attack nativism. I have to attack racism. I have to attack, in America, my dilemma is, on the one hand, I want to reach out to the Trump supporters who have legitimate economic grievances. But on the other hand, I don't want to throw under the bus minority groups who are threatened by Trumpism.
Exactly.
And so, so there are two things I want to do, but the two things seem to contradict each other.
I can
because
totally see that.
I have to fight against. My cartoons have to speak. Well, one, I'm a minority and stuff, and I come from immigrant parents and stuff, and those are two groups that are that are affected by Trumpism and stuff.
Whereas, sure.
I have close gay and lesbian friends, and they're threatened. I have Jewish friends, I have Muslim friends, and they're threatened and stuff. And so, but on the other hand, I do know that the white working class in America, a lot of the jobs that used to provide them a stable middle class living got outsourced. And so the jobs that remained only paid half as much, and they didn't provide health insurance or any benefits. And so I do think that they have legitimate economic grievances, but I want to find some way of steering them away from right-wing demagogues and stuff. And
I totally, and I struggle with that as well. And I think all cartoonists do to an extent. And again, it kind of has to do with the fact that you're trying to tell like a nuanced story, but you only have one panel to do it, and only visuals, which is very challenging. So what I kind of try to do is attack people in power instead of the people voting for them, because it's been a tactic, I feel, of especially of right-wing politics to say, hey, your shitty situation is caused by immigrants and they're kind of the scapegoat, while in reality they've created policies that don't work and that only benefit rich people, that created the loss of the middle class in the first place. And then you have like a clear point of attack, without saying to the people, oh, you're stupid because you vote for Trump, and because that doesn't work anyway, and that only leads to more polarization, which which again is difficult to avoid as a cartoonist, but again, you don't have to contribute to it. It's the same for like stereotypes. I know we use stereotypes and cliches in cartoons, but you don't have to contribute to perpetuating negative stereotypes. It's something you try to think about, or at least I try to think about when I create a cartoon.
I think a lot of cartoonists think about, and it's hard to resolve.
Oh, definitely. It's definitely a struggle. But I do have values that I want to fight for, and that I want to attack in my cartoons, or so I agree with that as well.
Oh, okay. Well, you have 10 minutes left, so let me ask you the last question. and you've alluded it to in your other answers. Why are political cartoons important?
Yeah, so definitely also already alluded to it. I think they're such an impactful way to point out what's wrong in a society, in a way that well, I sometimes compare it to like reading a newspaper. When you read a newspaper, you you can read the headline and decide not to read the article. But
Yeah.
you cannot, once you saw the cartoon, you saw the cartoon. It's like a headline on its own, except that it tells a more complex story than just a headline. So it's unignorable. Once you've seen
Yeah.
it, you've seen it, and you cannot unsee it. So that's the power of a visual, and that's also maybe the power of like the one panel cartoon, where if you have like a cartoon that's 3 or 4 panels, you can still make the conscious decision not to read the comic or the cartoon. While if you have like a one panel cartoon with little text and just one clear visual, it's unavoidable. And that's also the impact, because a lot of people can see it, and they can get thinking about something. And I think that's also the mechanism from the 18th, 19th century onwards, why people in power feared cartoons, because that's exactly what they did. Just make people think about the fact that you can criticize power, and that it's all right to point at the things they do wrong. And that's a very scary thing for people who have power, especially those who want to stay in power.
Yeah. And I think what's cool, speaking to a European cartoonist, is you have such a wonderful history, from Gilray, Daumier, Goy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff, is that you've had all of those centuries of tradition, of artistic tradition of using art to keep power accountable, and depict human folly and stuff. That's something I deeply admire about Europe and its history of satire.
Oh, that's funny. I do like the European tradition, but I'm always so impressed by the American tradition as well, with Thomas Nast and everything that came after. So I think you have such a rich history in the U.S. of political satire, and then you had I think if you compare, like I think around the 1990s, there were 2,500 cartoonists in the U.S. working like professionally at newspapers. I think I don't know the European data, but I can imagine it was a lot less here. So I think if you compare like political cartoonist traditions, I would say that the U.S. probably has the richest.
Yeah. Well, we have 20 now, so
Yeah. I used the past tense, unfortunately.
That was one of the things about
I do think we have more in Europe now. Yeah, I think most newspapers still have at least one, and maybe one or two new cartoonists.
Yeah. So I think most cartoon. I used to think I was the minority, but I actually, cartoonists who have a day job and do cartoons on the side. That's me and stuff, and that's become a lot more other cartoonists and
Yeah,
stuff. So like,
yeah. No, worldwide, that's I think it's probably even the majority of cartoonists who do other things. And you have I think you have a couple of categories. So you have like you have the full-time political cartoonists. That's the first group. Then you have the cartoonists that do illustrations or children book illustrations or other graphic design stuff on the side. That's the other group. And then you'll have the group that'll do cartooning and have like a completely different profession on the side. They'll be architects or IT consultants or stuff like that. And that's also a very big group, definitely.
yeah, I used to have this theory that editorial cartoonists would transition into graphic novels, but several cartoonists told me the weakness in that argument is it just takes too long to do a graphic novel, whereas an editorial cartoon, you just do it in a day and
I
stuff.
think part of the impact of political cartoons is the fact that they can respond with immediacy to the news. So at least within 24 hours, but most of the times even sooner. And I think that's part of why they're so powerful. And that's not to say that graphic novels are not powerful or not great, but it's just, again, it's like a different category.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the same with animation, I feel, because at some point I talked to a lot of cartoonists who felt like with the rise of the internet, political animation would become like the new political cartoons. But it's the same argument. It just takes too long. You know, it's wonderful political animation, but it
Yeah.
just takes so much time to make it. So you know, you need to pick like general topics that'll stay current for like a month or even longer, because otherwise it's, you know, it's not doable.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know and stuff. But I think it's one of the few things I'm good at and stuff. So, you know,
Yeah.
I always think that, you know, but it's a form that I accidentally fell into, but I love.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, no, definitely. And I don't know how to do anything else, so luckily I can make a little bit of money with it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you do what I did. I worked in a library. So
Yeah, which sounds like fun as well.
yeah. Yeah. So, oh, okay. Well, thank you very much for talking to this cartoonist from halfway around the world.
Yeah, it was
And
lovely talking to you.